Welcome to Chromatic Counsel, the podcast where we dive into the journey of attorneys, their successes, challenges, and of course, their go-to wardrobe. I'm your host, Carrie Heaps, and as a color and body language contributor, I help attorneys make powerful first impressions, build confidence, and master the art of nonverbal communication. And speaking of nonverbal communication, have you ever wondered what your body language is saying in the courtroom during mediation? Or even in a networking function. That's exactly what I teach in my Bodies Don't Lie boot camp. If you are looking to take your body language to the next level, I would love for you to check it out. It is in the show notes below. Now let's jump into today's conversation. I'm excited today. Our guest is David Holt. He is the founder and CEO of Holt Law. It is a Minnesota and California licensed firm that helps healthcare entrepreneurs navigate their industry's unique legal challenges. And drawing on an extensive experience advising healthcare professionals, medical spa owners, and group home operators, David specializes in regulatory frameworks and liability protection for group homes and licensed residential care settings. His expertise enables clients to grow their businesses with confidence and sustainability. And beyond his legal practice, David is the founder and CEO of DocuHealth. It is a platform that makes essential legal documents and training accessible to healthcare professionals. And in addition to leading Holt Law, he is also the author of an upcoming book on healthcare legal strategies for business owners set to launch, well, this year. David, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm excited to have you here. I've got lots of questions. So I just want to dive in first with your background because you started it is a biomedical engineer
I sure
before
did.
you became an attorney and entrepreneur. And I'm just kind of curious, how does somebody make that leap? What kind of inspired that transition?
Yeah. Well, I mean, biomedical engineering, I've always wanted to be on the forefront of healthcare, right? The US healthcare system has a lot of work that needs to be done. And so originally I thought I'd be the guy building the medical devices. Wasn't for me. So pivoted and went to law school with more of a health law type focus to kind of still be in policy slash where I'm at now, helping more small healthcare businesses come in. But still, that degree was not lost. It was not done in vain. I think the just the way that they train your mind as an engineer, a very systems oriented mindset, has now translated very well into the practice of law and building a larger law firm with our staff and the large amount of clients. So it was a interesting transition, but certainly a really cool one that to bring that experience into the practice of law too.
Yeah, I love always asking everyone about their background on the show because I find with attorneys, there's a wide variety. I've seen people who have been, like, hey, I was going to go to school for acting, and then they make a transition over. So it's always interesting. What do you find is one like unexpected skill from that engineering background that kind of helps you run your law firm today?
Yeah. Well, they teach you the scientific method when you're an engineer, so you're really breaking everything down into its core components and creating hypotheses. And I like to really, I'm just a honestly an entrepreneur, business owner that happens to be in the practice of law. So every day, every week, every month, we are building new systems, asking why things are done a certain way. I've certainly had a lot of questions about why certain things are done in big healthcare and big law. And so that skill set and just the way that the mind was trained for me has been very helpful in terms of just entrepreneurial mindset slash thinking more like a business owner, less like kind of a what I would consider an old school attorney.
Hmm. Okay. And obviously you have a boutique firm. Like it's a unique practice of what you do. And I find it very interesting because you have that one little niche market, so to speak. Um, when people learn about you and about the firm, about Holt Law, what do you find is like the biggest misconception, not just for you, but for anybody else that has like a boutique type law firm? What do you think has been like the number one misconception?
Say number one would be price. That's too expensive, right? The word boutique. just
Hmm.
sounds expensive, right? If I was going out boutique shopping for some, clothes or something like that, I would probably think I'd need to bring, a nice credit card in the wallet. So I like to dispel that myth. I mean, we focus on value, not price. And generally, that doesn't mean too expensive. It is priced right based on the value that you're getting. So
Hmm.
that's probably the biggest misconception, and just people don't really know that firms like us exist. You think, okay, there's criminal defense, there's divorce, there's, business attorneys, but a business attorney that only does healthcare businesses and having that niche, you've only seen those types of firms really spring up over the last decade or two. And so just educating people that we even exist as a niche in the first place is also, I guess, the beginning to the misconception.
Hmm. I would agree with that. And because like obviously with you, you have opposite, you practice in both California and Minnesota. Like if somebody came to you and said, "Hey, I need help," and maybe it's a medical spa, but they're located in Louisiana. What happens then? Do you refer them out, or are you still able to help them because you're so specialized, or what typically would happen there?
Yeah. Usually we co-counsel with local counsel. So the beauty of healthcare law is, and I guess just the licensure of attorneys is we are allowed to comment on federal law for which, Medicare, Medicaid, a lot of the laws are federal. So if the matter was related to that, we could help. And then if there was some nuances of Louisiana, I think you said, I we generally have most states covered, especially the states with the most frequent questions. The Texas, the Floridas, the New Yorks. We have attorneys that we have good relationships with where we can divide and conquer and make sure that, from a licensing perspective, we've checked all the boxes. So if it's not a straight up referral, we can co-counsel and split up the work fairly.
Yeah, I always like to ask because, again, I mean, this is predominantly for attorneys, but I have a lot of people who are not attorneys that will listen to the show. So if they're having an issue and they're like, "Hey, this is great, but this guy's not in my area," you can still help, obviously. So that's good to know. And because so many attorneys, listen to this show, what would you say are two tips that you would offer to any attorney regardless of their location? They want to go out on their own. They want to start their own firm. Maybe it's a boutique firm, maybe it's just a general firm that they want to start. What would you say to them if they came to you for advice? What would be two things you would say to them?
Say number one, be intentional and have a vision, focus on a niche. Don't just kind of be the whatever comes in the door attorney. It's much easier to attract clients that you want to work with when you've intentionally thought about that and not just out of, desperate necessity. But all too often I see kind of the latter, those who just kind of started something and it kind of turned into their, that well, that's what everyone called them for. And
Mhm.
so pick something that, you actually have some passion. For me, you know, it's the US healthcare system. It's broken. I think bringing in more healthcare businesses, the entrepreneurs, the small healthcare businesses, they're like me, small, and, that can be a multi-million dollar company in the US, but smaller business owners, it's just fun. It's entrepreneurship. So it's easy. But if I were to do another area, what have you, family law, just general business law, whatever, pick one that actually resonates with you for some reason because it's your life, that's your business.
Mhm.
Another one is, well, we have been growing our firm quite a bit, so this may not apply to everyone, but with your offerings and with the way that law used to be practiced, it was, billable hour, just kind of, this out of necessity type model. I actually kind of lean towards, again, looking at the practice of law is, you're a business owner that happens to be in law. And so the usual business rules apply about how easy you make your product to buy, right? I'm a big fan of a scalable business model. I have a lot of flat fees and their packages. It's like going into a legal store and picking it off the shelf. So uh, I don't hear a lot of other attorneys talk about this, but just having a product that's easy to sell, right? and not really getting into the weeds of, oh, I got to hear every little thing about your case to make this quote. Maybe you do just have limited scope flat fees that do fit most people. And that has served us really well in terms of growth and just being able to market and communicate that. So that'd be my two pieces of advice right there.
I love those. And I love that you brought up about desperation because I see a lot of attorneys on LinkedIn, for example, that will post about, they've taken like they took a client that their gut told them, hey, I probably shouldn't take this person on, but because of finances or whatever, they did that and they regret it later on. And I think that's something to be said in any industry. Don't be, you really need to stick with what you do and don't, I know myself included, anytime I've gone outside of that wheelhouse to help someone or do something, it turns into just a nightmare. But I love both of those tips. And I love that you're bringing an element to law that it's because I think things are changing. I think things are evolving for attorneys. There's so many that have, I don't want to call it a side hustle, but they have other things that they're doing. They have other businesses. They're kind of breaking out of that traditional, like you said, billable hour mold. Now, looking at your website prior to this, because I was like, wow, this looks like a great, like if I were looking for a job, this would be a place I would apply. You seem to have really gotten a good hold on building like a team-oriented culture within your organization. What advice would you give to somebody who is trying to build something for their firm, for team building and really sustaining internal relations because law is so stressful, it just is. So,
Yeah. It's well, building a good work culture and team is not easy. It's not easy at all. I'll just say that. We've been very intentional. We've invested a lot of time and money and energy into what we've built. I'll also note we're a virtual law firm, right? So all my staff is sitting at their respective homes, or if they go on vacation or whatever, they're working remotely, which is a big plus. But at the end of the day, that does weave into the work culture, right? There can be disconnect, as we saw during the pandemic, with the freedom and reward of working at home. So one thing I think that we are very clear about is we have, well, as part of our vision, we have core values, right? And one of those is absolute ownership. And so we give all the team members like real ownership over their work and their judgment and generally their time to do tasks. And so we measure stuff with data, we give them the tools to be effective, but we try not to micromanage the how things are done. We're looking at productivity, not hours worked as much. Now, it's always a balance. There's always, sometimes exceptions to the rules and coaching that needs to be done, but really empowering the staff and not, you know, putting, all sorts of tracking devices on their home computer or what have you, I think is a big, and that goes along with trust.
mhm.
Um, to that vivid vision, I mean, just communicating to your team, here's where we're going. Here are our, you know, core values. And when I say core values, I'm talking about things you've thought about. Communication, absolute ownership is one of ours. Um, and when I say communication, we break it down even further, like what you were talking about earlier, is if there's somebody that's pushing boundaries, kind of being, a jerk,
Mhm.
we fire them, right? We're not playing the money over being treated like garbage game, and we're very clear about communicating good outcomes, bad outcomes, how long things are going to take, having tough conversations. And so communication is a core value. And then to take it one step further, celebrating, acknowledging wins together. So we use key performance indicators. So, when we measure data, we're paying out bonuses based on, hitting numbers, and that's a financial reward. But on top of that, on a daily meeting, a daily huddle, we call it, we're saying, hey, listen, Courtney, you did a great job. Absolute ownership. I saw you do this. It's a gratitude exercise, but it's really, you know, bringing the team to the forefront, calling each other out, and really expressing that gratitude. So those are a few things, but I will say we are doing some really cool and interesting things that you will not see at other firms. I'll just one of those is yes, we're virtual. We also have what's called a virtual office, and it's a virtual space where, you can see little people walking around, and we have our offices, and you can actually go in meetings in there. And there's kind of subcultures that are starting to develop, which I think is really cool to capture a little bit of the in-person space, but in kind of a professional, remote way. And we do in-person meetings monthly and or annually. We do a nice cool one in California where we do really like the in-person intentional bonding that comes from that. So it's tough though. It's tough in 2025, and even just getting good talent and good team members to begin with. It's not an easy task, and you need to be very intentional about it. And a lot more work goes into it than I would have thought when you're building a team.
Yeah, and to just having that virtual aspect of your firm, because I'm seeing some, not a lot, but there's more and more firms that are starting to kind of go that route. And I think that's amazing. I love that because I mean, really, at the end of the day, even you as an attorney, you can work remotely, like, well, unless you have to go. I mean, I don't know how often you have to go to court or mediation for, the sector that you're in, but for the most part, it can work. I mean, like you said, I mean, there's work to it, but you can make it work if that's something that you want as part of your culture. Um, and I know, like you were talking about, like, the balancing, you have the added pressure of running the firm. So how do you personally balance not just, managing the team, but running the business and parenting and struggles and just different things that you may have going on? How do you have like a secret formula for that or
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, again, being intentional with my time, both in work, out of work, setting boundaries. I'm a big time blocking fan. I like time blocking personal things, even if they're hobbies or, parenting. Dog, I got a puppy right now, and he's throwing my whole, time blocking schedule for a loop. So I've realized just how reliant I've come upon a good routine, which, even with him still means, good sleep,
Mhm.
eating good food, working out nearly daily. I'm a big cold plunge kind of wellness advocate. I like working with a lot of healthcare providers. You get a lot of cool ideas and advice. So I take a lot of them up on some of their tips. But it's easy to get stuck in the rat race of more of my time in the business means more money, means, it slowly encroaches on your personal life. But if you're not recharging, eventually you're going to burn out. I mean, this core fundamental truth has been around since the dawn of time. It just seems to be forgotten or kind of recycled in different ways with computers and phones and all sorts of new things to distract us. But I I'm a big time blocking guy. I don't hear of a lot of people that will actually time block their personal time. And it's not that you can't move that if there's, if my son or my dog, kind of throws it off schedule, but you're purposely saying, hey, for that hobby, for, the cold plunge or the workout, that's always on my calendar. That is something I got to go do. Just like going to court or a client meeting, you wouldn't skip that haphazardly unless you were super sick or there was an emergency, right? And if you can learn to take your time blocking, you know, seriously, and you kind of learn how long your body takes to actually do things, it's amazing the little things you'll find. I found that way back when I started doing it, there were all these, little things. I had too much time with the phone, kind of scrolling, and even 30 minutes of TV a day will add up in a hurry. And all my hobbies, it's like, well, that whole month went without any, reading or guitar or cold plunge or what have you, golf. So I'm a huge time blocking guy. It's not for everyone, but that's my little trick to try and create the boundaries.
And I think that's an amazing tip to offer everyone because time blocking and just taking care of yourself first, because I think you're absolutely right. If you don't take care of you, you can't take care of your firm, your clients, no one, I mean, if you don't take care of you first, and it's interesting because I teach CLE here in Florida and I also teach it in Texas. And one thing that I have noticed is that most states now have some of them call it a wellness credit or a mental fitness. So, like they want them to take classes on, uh, stress management, taking care of yourself because law is so stressful. And I know even with my CLE, I try to incorporate a little humor because I think it helps just to take that break and laugh. It's okay to laugh and learn at the same time. But really having, like you said, having boundaries and doing that time blocking, I love, and you're right, I've never thought about that for my personal life. And I think you got to treat it like it's an appointment, like you're going to court, or it's a sales appointment, or it's a podcast interview, and it's on your calendar and it stays on there. So I love those tips. Now, as you know, the name of the show, it's Chromatic Counsel. And I always love to ask everybody that's on the show, and I'm interested to hear what you have to say because you have a virtual firm. But do you have like some favorite go-to pieces in your wardrobe that you're like, man, I put this jacket on or this shirt on and I'm super productive? Or do you have any wardrobe pieces that are kind of like your go-to thing for efficiency or outcomes?
Yeah. Well, I knew you were going to ask this, and I thought about it, but I like colors that make me happy and comfortable, right? I'm trying to be approachable. I don't, we're a transactional firm. So although we don't go to court or mediation, absolutely, nonverbal communication, posture, and then also, what you wear is already communicating a lot of information. But at the end of the day, I want to be approachable. So I was looking at some of my old just posts in the website and pictures, and I'm like, is there a trend here? And I think, blues and greens is what I came up with. My favorite color is green, a nice earthy green. I just love it. So if I'm wearing that, I'm happy. And I think that'll resonate with whoever I'm talking to. And then blues, I mean, how can you, it's right now, it's a sunny blue sky day in Minneapolis. So it's a great color. It'd probably be my second running. And I think both of those communicate a little bit more comfort, approachability. So those would be my two. I'm a little bit more informal than the average attorney. I can kind of get away with it as a transactional attorney, and it's my brand, and I kind of dress like my clients, kind of a startup entrepreneur, right? A dad, kind of running around with a puppy and probably not with a suit on as much because it would get destroyed, but certainly do put it on. If I were to put on a suit, it's probably a nice navy blue.
Mhm.
That is my just favorite go-to if I'm at a more formal event.
Awesome. And just in closing, is there anything you want to share with our listening audience that you have coming up? I know you've got the book coming up, but anything else that you'd like to share with everyone?
Oh gosh. Well, yeah. Well, not professionally. I got a puppy that I'm training, so I'm sure that'll flood the social media channels. Bruno is
Oh,
somewhere. Oh, he's right behind. Oh, well, maybe I can. Let's see if I can see
you
if I
might
can
want to
get
be on
the.
the show. Yeah.
See if we can get him here. All right, there he is, right there. Did that come through on the?
Oh, yes, it did.
He's
Hi.
a really good little dog. He's
Oh,
a he's a Basenji, so it's a Basenji, so it's a very interesting breed. Very smart. I love him. We just got him 2 days ago. But professionally, what else do we got? We got a book. We got the book, The Laws of Medicine, coming out. I have a podcast that's largely content for healthcare entrepreneurs, innovators, those in residential care. And I mean, our blog, we put a lot of time into our resources, and I think you'll find that they are some of the most comprehensive and generous on our respective topics. I mean, there's marketing stuff like any business, but um, AI seems to really like our checklists and blogs that we take a lot of time to do. So check it out, see what you think. That's it in terms of what's coming up and resources: the book, the podcast, the puppy, and the blog.
awesome. Well, I will make sure everyone knows too. We are going to have links in the show notes for anyone that wants to get in touch with David or with Holt Law. Those links will be in the show notes below. You could just click on those. And David, I want to thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to join us today, share a few tips, and let us meet Bruno as well.
Thank you for hosting. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in today. That is a wrap for this episode of Chromatic Counsel. And if you're interested in being a guest on the show, click on the link in the show notes below to apply. We would love to have you. We interview anyone within the legal community, whether you're an attorney, expert witness, or anyone who services the legal community can apply. But I want to thank everyone for joining us. And I hope you can join us next time on Chromatic Counsel. And as always, remember life is short, wear bright colors.